Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Earth Machine deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because this deck is an amazing combo deck that can summon out all sorts of massive machine monsters to help you go in for game. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to our Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Harvester. Harvester is one of the best normal summons in the entire build because if this card is normal or special summon, you can add an Infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand except another copy of this card. This card also has a really awesome unique ability that you get to target one other machine monster you control, and the level of those 2 monsters actually become combined, which is super cool. Meaning if you target a level 4 monster with this card, both monsters will become level 6, which is super cool to help you level manipulate in this deck to get to the exact levels that you need to make an XZ play. We then play a single copy of Anchor Drill. Anchor Drill is good as a 1-up because this card is actually searchable off of Ancient Gear box, and it's really good because this card also has a really cool ability. If it's normal or special summon, you can special summon 1 Earth Machine monster from your hand in defense position except another copy of this card. And this card also shares a level manipulating ability just like your copy of Harvester, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Brutal Dozer. Brutal Dozer is an amazing 1-of in the build that you can actually tribute an Earth Machine monster to special summon this card from your hand in defense position. And if this card is special summoned from your hand, you can actually special summon an Infinitrack monster from your deck in defense position except another copy of this card but negate its effects, which is not that big of a deal as you're basically just using this card to get an additional monster out on the field to make an XZ play or even a Link play. We then play a single copy of Trencher. Trencher is really good as a 1-of in the build because this card has a great graveyard ability that you can banish this card from the grave to be able to target a level 5 or lower Infinitrack monster in your grave except a copy of Trencher and special summon that monster in defense position, which is a great effect. This card is basically like a monster reborn. We then play a single copy of Tunneler. Tunneler is great in the deck, and I'm part of a big combo in this build because this card is like Pot of Avarice. You can actually banish this card from your graveyard and then target up to 5 Earth Machine monsters in your graveyard and shuffle them into the deck to draw 2 cards. You do have to target exactly 5 in the graveyard to make this card go off, but being able to draw 2 is just insane for your extending plays, which is just really nice. We then also play a single copy of Road Roller. Road Roller is great as an extender in the build, and this card is just really cool as if an Earth Machine monster is tributed or banished face up, you can special summon this card from your graveyard or your hand, which is a great ability just to instantly get this card out on your side of the field. And any XZ monster whose original type is Machine and has this card as a material gains the effect that face up monsters that your opponent controls are changed to defense position, and also they lose 1,000 defense points, which is an insane ability just to lock down your opponent with this card. This card is one of my favorite Infinitrack cards, not only for the Dojo reference, but it's also really cool to be able to use this card to shift our opponent's monsters into defense position. We then play 3 copies of Gear Frame. Gear Frame is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card is basically the Stratos for the deck. As when this card is normal summon, you can add a Machina monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability to add any of your Machina monsters that you need instantly to your hand off this card's ability, especially your copy of Unclasper. Unclasper is really good to be able to add off your copy of your Gear Frame, as if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, then you can special summon this card to your side of the field, which is a great ability. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a copy of one of your Machina monsters from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great ability to instantly get the exact monster you want in the grave. We then play a single copy of Fortress. Fortress is just a really good extender that is super easy to summon out to your side of the field because you can discard machine type monsters whose total level equal 8 or more to special summon this card from your hand or your graveyard. But since it says from the graveyard, you can actually discard itself plus basically any other machine to summon this card out. We then play a single copy of Citadel. Citadel is really good in the deck because this card is actually a level 10, helping us go in for rank 10 plays. but this card is really good in the deck as a 1-of, because this card cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by a card effect. In quick effect, you can actually target a machine monster that you control and destroy that machine monster, and all monsters your opponent control with attack less than or equal to it, which is a really cool ability to help you basically get rid of your opponent's monster so he can go in for game. And if a face-up Earth machine monster you control, except a copy of Citadel, is destroyed by battle by card effect while this card's in the graveyard, you can special summon this card. We then play a single copy of Ruin Force. Ruin Force is an amazing 1-of in the build. This card is super easy to summon out and is just a crazy powerful card that it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from the graveyard by banishing machine monsters from your grave whose total level equals 12 or more. This card is the main target we're going to send to the graveyard off our copy of Unclasper, because this card is easy to get out to our side of the field at 4,600, which is insane that this card is that big. It also has the ability that when your opponent activates a card effect during the battle phase, quick effect, you can pay half your life points to negate the activation if you do destroy it, then half your opponent's life points, making it even easier to go in for game. I love that about this card, and it's just an insane boss monster that comes out at 4,600. We then play a single copy of Gearbox. Gearbox is great to be able to search from the deck, because this card has the ability, if it's added from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can add an Earth machine type monster with 500 attack and or defense from your deck to your hand, and we have a bunch of different targets in the build to be able to grab off this card's ability. We then play a single copy of Darkrai. Darkrai is just a great extender as a 1-of in the build, as if an Earth machine monster is normal or special summoned to the field, you can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field, but its original attack and defense become half, which is not that big of a deal, as you're just basically using this card as an extender. It also has the ability that if this card is detached from an XZ monster and sent to the graveyard to activate on its effect, you can actually target one card your opponent controls and destroy it, which is a great ability. If it's just detached, you do get to pop a card. We then play a single copy of Express Train. Express Train is also a great extender in the build, as if all monsters you control are Earth machines, then you can special summon this card from your hand. We then play 2 copies of Regulus. Regulus is ridiculously easy to summon to our side of the field, and this card is basically a walking negate, which is why we play this card as a 2-of in the deck, because you can just special summon this card to your side of the field with the ability you can target a Therion monster or a machine monster in the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand to do equip that monster this card, meaning it's ridiculously easy to get this card out on your side of the field to give you a really big negate on the field. We then also play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is really good at stopping your opponent from touching the deck, which is why we play this card as a 3-of in the build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good at stopping your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Triple Tactics Talent is great as a 2-of in the build, because this card has an amazing effect that if your opponent has activated a monster effect during the main phase, we can activate one of its 3 powerful effects to either draw 2, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at our opponent's hand and choose a card from it and shuffle it back in the deck. We then also play 3 copies of Redeployment. Redeployment is really cool in the deck because this card is basically like a copy of Pendulum Call. I love this card as a 2 or 3-of in the build because it lets you actually search 2 cards, which is really cool. Because you can discard a card to add 2 Machina monsters with different names from each other from your deck to your hand, or if you discard a Machina card, you can add 2 Machina cards with different names from each other from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability to use this card. I love that about this card. That just gives you a search 2, and it's a really awesome 3-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Urgent Schedule. Urgent Schedule is really cool to be able to use in this build because this card lets us summon out 2 monsters to our side of the field. As if our opponent controls more monsters than we do, we can actually special summon 1 level 4 lower and 1 level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from our deck in defense position, but negate their effects. But that's totally fine because it instantly gives us 2 monsters on our side of the field, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of Heavy Ford. Heavy Ford is basically like the Rhoda for the deck, because this card has the ability, when this card is activated, you can add an Infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability, and once per turn, you can actually target a Machine XZ you control and activate one of these effects to change its battle position or attach this card as a material to it, which is a really cool effect. So, that's it for the spell cards. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start out with a single copy of Overdrive. Overdrive is really good as a one-of in the build. It actually lets us target a machine monster that you control to special summon a Machina monster with a different name from your hand or deck, and if you do, destroy the targeted monster. You can also banish this card from your graveyard and then target 3 of your machine monsters that are banished or in your grave and shuffle them into the deck to draw a card. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is really good as a 3-up, just to stop our opponent's monster effects and also lock down entire columns of spells and traps, which is super cool to be able to do. We then play 3 copies of Skill Drain. This card hurts our opponent a lot more than it hurts us, because we can summon out 4,600 attack point monsters, and this deck summons out cards like Leeb, which is just insane, because this card comes out at 4,000. So it's really easy to be able to activate Skill Drain and basically lock our opponent down for their monster effects, and then just summon big machine monsters to OTK, which is why I love playing Skill Drain as a 3-of in the build. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with a single copy of Juggernaut Leeb. Juggernaut Leeb is really cool as an OTK piece for the deck, because this card is really easy to summon, because you can also XZ summon this card using any rank 10 XZ monster that's a machine to be able to summon out this awesome OTK card. We then play a single copy of Super Dora. Super Dora is a really good defensive card in the deck, as it has the ability once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach a material from this card and then target a face-up monster on the field, and that target is unaffected by card effects except its own card effects until the end of the turn, which is a great ability to use. We can play a single copy of Gustav Max. Gustav Max does 2,000 burn damage by detaching material, which is an insane ability to help us close out games. We can play a single copy of Interblafnir. Interblafnir is great because you have 4 different abilities on this card that you can activate. By detaching material, you can either banish a card your opponent controls, banish a random card from your opponent's hand, banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, or banish the top card of your opponent's deck face up, which is a really cool ability to use with this card to basically just banish something by detaching material. We then play a single copy of Earth Slicer. Earth Slicer is great as a 1-of in the build, as this card has the ability, if this card is in your graveyard, you can actually treat a machine link monster to special summon this card in Defense Ocean, which our copy of River Stormer also shares that ability. With this card's unique abilities, you can detach any number of materials on this card and then target that many cards on the field and destroy them, which is a really cool effect. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster of battle, you can actually attach that card to this card as a material, which is an insane effect to be able to basically not let your opponent's cards go to their grave. We then play a single copy of River Stormer. River Stormer is a searcher for the deck, because this card has the ability that you can actually detach a material from this card to take an Earth Machine monster and either add it from your hand, or add it to your hand, or send it to the grave, which is a great effect. We then play a single copy of Giganta X. Giganta X is great because this card is also a searcher with the ability you can detach a material from this card and then add a level 4 lower machine monster from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to instantly get to the exact card you need. We then also play a single copy of Zeus. Zeus is great in the deck as a 1-of because this card is a board wipe, and plus it's easy to summon on top of any of our XZ monsters. We can play a single copy of Cleafort Genius. Cleafort Genius is just a good option to be able to make in this deck. 1 copy of Platinum Gadget. Platinum Gadget gives us an additional summon, which is really nice, is if this card is on your side of the field, then during your main phase, you can actually special summon a level 4 lower machine monster from your hand to your zone this card points to, which is a great ability. We can also play a single copy of Anger Knuckle. Anger Knuckle is great in this deck as a 1-of, because this card has 2 really cool abilities that during the main phase quick effect, you can send a monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, and then target a level 10 machine monster in the grave and special summon to a zone this card points to and negate its effects. And if this card's in the graveyard, you can send one card from your hand or field to the grave to special summon this card, which is a great ability. We then play a single copy of Ballista. Ballista's great in this deck as a 1-of, because if this card is link summon, you can add an Ancient Gear monster or a copy of Gear Town from your deck to your hand, but we're always adding Gearbox from our deck to our hand, all this card's ability, which is just a really cool effect to be able to get basically 2 searches off this card's summon. We then play 3 copies of Goliath. Goliath is definitely at least a 2 to 3 of in this build. I did consider cutting this card down to 2 for another XZ monster, or even a copy of, say, SP Little Knight, but I wanted to be more machine focused, so I ended up just playing 3 copies of this card. This card has the ability, if this card is sent from field to grave, you can target a XZ machine monster you control and attach this card to that monster as a material, with the ability that if this card is a material, this card cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is a really cool ability. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is a really fun deck to be able to play. If you guys have never played an Earth Machine deck before, you should definitely give this build a try, because I absolutely love Earth Machine, because it summons out all sorts of big machine monsters to help you go in for game, which is just really cool to be able to do. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.